extremely cold out here. Hopefully, you guys are doing well. Made it up to the DMV. We still got to go a little further up north, up 95. So pray for us, but we're almost back. Um, since we got everybody on, let's go ahead and get into this. May the words of my mouth and the meditation of my heart be acceptable in Yahweh's sight. He is our strength and our Redeemer, and it is in His name, which is His authority, that we pray, praise, proclaim, project, and protect today's message. Amen. Um, Barakalat Yahweh. Shalom alat sham Yahweh. And I Kofi, head of the Servants of Christ. Mashalom Khe. Hello, everybody. I am Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant of Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, by being the voice of the voices and speaking the unspoken. Thank you for being on. How you doing, Sister Bree? How you doing, Sister Carla? How you doing, Sister Iska? Nicole, everybody, appreciate you. Hopefully some others will be coming on. Like I said, I know we're running late. How you doing, Sister Renee? How you doing, DB? We at least made it to where we can pick up the stuff while the honorable mind's inside doing what she do and picking up some stuff and getting some business together so we can try and make sure that we fulfill our promises. We're going to try and do a quick live. I would have actually liked this to kind of be an extended live. It's amazing how this stuff goes. When I wanted to be quick, we go extended. When I wanted to be extended, we go quick. But I wanted to kind of introduce Herod. We're probably going to be doing a lot more of this type of stuff this year. We don't mind dealing with historical figures and stuff like that, but specifically, we're going to be dealing a lot this year with, how they tell us that people in the Bible don't exist. They don't know where their tombs are. There's no written evidence of them. There's no records, when clearly there's several people, like Xerxes and, Perseus, not Perseus, excuse me, Darius and different people like that, obviously different places are obviously in there, Babylon, stuff like that. When you look at Maccabees, okay, hold on one second, yeah. Alrighty, sorry. How's everybody doing once again? So we're going to be doing a lot more stuff like this. We're not like me sitting down on the ground. But we're going to be doing a lot more stuff like this, where we're going to be having discussions regarding, they say people aren't really here, or people in the Bible aren't real. So places in the Bible aren't real. This is all fictitious. There's no evidence of it. So we're going to go over some of that stuff a lot more this year and try to utilize some of our evening sessions to ensure that we're having greater conversation concerning those items. Once again, let's say hello, everybody, real quick. Don't have that much time, so we're going to kind of use this to kind of be a launching pad into some other stuff, and maybe you'll be able to use some of this stuff to go down the rabbit hole, right? But just real quick, how's everybody doing? We once again give all honor and praise to the Most High. We give our praise and honor to Him for my wife, the Honorable Mind, who lives a life is able to be honored. She's actually on with us right now. You can check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A&D, the letter N, Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Thank you, babe, for being on. Love you very much. To the moderators, ministerial staff, SOC, Lottie, and everybody, appreciate you. I bow down to thee. Still going through our calendar stuff. Seems like we might have missed some people. But we're trying to make sure everybody has a virtual calendar. If you got an email, a text, or something, if for some reason the calendar doesn't open up, we had a little bit of problem with that. I think only one person we had a problem with that, but we might have more. So if you're having issues, because we did find out that for some reason it looks like sometimes the file has issues with it. So if so, just let us know, and we'll make sure that we correct that. If you have, especially if you just ordered a calendar today, but if you have ordered a calendar, remember we've been saying the whole time, as soon as we get back up north, which you can still see we haven't gotten all the way back, that's when we'll be able to start sending stuff out. So even if we were to send things out tomorrow, you're probably still not going to get it until next, or not probably, you would not get it until next week, no matter, even if we were to try to find a place that was open still, which is not, you still wouldn't get it until next week, more than likely, depending on where you are. So just be aware that the stuff will be sent out. Patreon Kingdom, Patreon family, Patreon members, we will have stuff loaded up The tier will be loaded up, and I will make sure that there's some recordings up for you guys tonight to be able to go online if you would like to, and make sure that you can see, stuff for SOC University. So that tier will be set up. It'll be set up later this evening. So you're gonna have to give me at least about an hour and a half. But if you're still up and you want to look at that tier for yourself to see what's on there, you'll be able to have access to that for SOC University to be moved to Patreon. Um, yeah, and then other than that, keep looking looking for updates. Ministerial staff, please, ma'am, please, sir. Let's make sure that we're reaching out to these brothers and sisters, working on getting you the link and stuff like that again. But it should be the same link that you were already sent before, to make sure that you can look up the phone numbers and everything that you need. All right, praise Yah. All right, so tonight, real quick, we're going to talk about Herod. Obviously, in the situation I'm in, the place I'm in, I'm not going to be able to really just open the word. I would suggest, if you would like to, go open the Synoptic Gospels, if you will, and check out Herod and how he's represented in the Bible. I wanted to talk about more so, though, before you see him represented in the Bible. When Herod is represented to you in the Bible, he's actually an older man. And first things first, let's say our Bible pledge: this is my Bible, this is my sword, and this will I trust, for Yahushua is Lord. No sword of God shall ever be heard, for this is my Bible, and this is Yah's word, Hashem Yechava, Aman. Right? And how you doing, Sister Yvette? How you doing, Joseph? How you doing, servants of King of Kings? Once again, thanks, babe, for being on. How you doing, Sister Bree? I think I said hello to some of you guys already, actually. Yeah, hello. How you doing, Warren? How you doing, Alva the Best? If I miss your name, charge to my head, not to my heart. How you doing, Brother Charlie? How you doing, Brother Allen? Lottie Dottie, everybody. Appreciate you for being on. Thanks for being on. How are you doing, Minister Shante? Sister Knight, Donovan Jackson, Sierra Carter. I'm sorry, I don't know why I'm saying full names. How you doing, Minister Tracy? How you doing, Sister Joy? Minister Stephen, Sister Akita, Spiritual Prospect, and once Magnolia. Everybody, Magnolia. Wow, if that's same Magnolia, hello, it's been a while. Once again, if I miss your name, please charge it to my head, not to my heart. So King Herod, real quick, and I'm gonna have to be. I'm looking at the time. I promise you, we won't keep it quick because we got to get back to the house, back to the crib, back to the house. We don't live in cribs. We're not babies. How you doing, Minister Smaila Ray? All right. So when we talk about Herod is important for us to get, because Herod is somebody where he kind of goes what we were talking about today, where there's a synthesized reality that we live in. Right now, if you actually want to get deep into Herod, we might even bring this up as well, because believe it or not, there's historical documentation of this. Now, this is what you might consider the lost books, but we would consider the word of Yah. If you really want to kind of see stuff that's set up about Herod, you actually got to know about the Maccabees, right? And the people who call themselves the new Maccabees, for lack of a better word. And the new Maccabees actually were people who came against those who were trying to take over. People forget that Rome was not over Israel, even the whole time that when Rome was growing in power, right? Even when Rome took over from Greece, even when Rome took over from the Carthaginians, Israel was actually still, believe it or not, a free state, right? Or what was left is Judah. Remember, at one point you had the northern kingdom, which was the kingdom of Israel. Then you had the southern kingdom, which was the kingdom of Judah, right? So Judah, that's still there at this moment in time, is still a free state. So if you go back, you got to kind of look at the second Maccabees, or I'm sorry, the new Maccabees, if you will, this group who is tired of being under oppression and actually fights back. And there's actually a man by the name of Matthias, or what you would call today Matthew. Now, and how you doing, Sister Beverly? How you doing, Brother Vincent? Now, Matthew is not the Matthew of the Bible, right? This is about 167 BC, somewhere around there. So, 170 years or so before Christ. You see that this guy named Matthew, or Matthias, how you doing, King E252? He is kind of tired of stuff, like many people are, right? And what's happened is the Greeks have all of a sudden started, they've gotten to a place to where they have been able to take over, right? They've been able to take over Israel, or Judah, right? And now these Greeks are starting to have heavy influence, and they're starting to say, you're going to do exactly what we want you to do. The Greeks all of a sudden decide that they're going to go ahead and start really messing with them. The Israelites, they say, you can't keep the Sabbath anymore, right? They say now, they actually say you're going to worship Zeus. They take over the temple. They actually go into the temple. They change the temple into the temple of Zeus. And even when they change the temple into the temple of Zeus. They actually go a step further. In spite, just out of spite, he actually takes a pig and sacrifices the pig to Zeus. An extreme, right? An extreme slap in the face to those who are Israel, right? Um, so they're forcing people to have to give up their belief system, be involved with a Greco-Roman mindset, a heathen mindset. How you doing, Sister Deborah? And so now they're really frustrated. Out of that, you get to a place to where they come to a town, and Matthew, he is kind of tired of this stuff, and they're forcing people to, sacrifice things to idols. Um, they asked Matthew to do it. He won't do it. There's a group of Israelites that today you would know as Hellenistic Jews. How you doing, Minister Joseph? Minister Yasab? If you want to look up Hellenistic Jews for yourself, but basically Hellenistic Jews, to a certain extent, they kind of remind me of Messianic Jews, but Hellenistic Israelites are basically people who are supposed to be Israelites, but they've started getting into the things of Helen, the things of Greece, right? Worshiping other spirits and things like that. So you had a Hellenistic Jew, or the people who are Judah, or even mixed race, right? I'm just using the term that we use today. But these Hellenistic Jews who now are starting to go ahead and worship false spirits. And by the way, I'm not just coming out of Maccabees for this. This is stuff you can look up in history books. Okay, so when they tell you this stuff doesn't exist, so maybe one of these days we'll get really deep into the Maccabees on the historical side, not just on the biblical side. But anyways, so they're getting into a fight. All this stuff happens. Next thing you know, Matthew, not Matthew in the Bible, right? The tax collector. This is about 170 years before he, or at least before we see him talked about. Actually, we would say about 200 years before we see him talked about in Scripture. Um, so this is about 170, 167 BC, somewhere in there. They try to force this Matthew to sacrifice to this idol. He refuses to do it. So a Hellenistic a Judean, or a Hellenistic Jew, or a Hellenistic Hebrew Israelite, he decides he's going to go ahead and do so. And Matthew can't take anymore. So basically, Matthew reaches out and he offs the person. Not only does he off the person, the Hellenistic Jew, but then he turns around and he offs the person of Rome with power, who was trying to force them to sacrifice to an idol. Once this happens, this Matthew then runs. He has 5 sons. Him and his 5 sons run away. They begin to fight, and they go to the mountains. Kind of, sort of like, even if you remember the Maroons, kind of, sort of like that. If you read about the Maroons, how you doing, Sister Shima? At the same time they go into the mountains, there's a rack of people that go in there with them, who don't agree with what's going on either, and so it becomes guerrilla warfare overnight. And basically they have these great victories without even having as many men. Like, they'll have only 600 men, and somehow, some way, surround people and use guerrilla warfare. What now they say is only existed in recent times, but they were using guerrilla warfare tactics back then, what you might call guerrilla warfare. So yeah, he snapped for real, right? So and then all of a sudden, Matthew's son, who went by the name of not Judah. Was it Judah? Not Judah. It was his third son, went by the name of. I can't remember his name. I feel like it's not Judah. But anyway, his third son then takes over for his father, and then they do really well or whatever. Then basically Rome sees what's going on. The Greeks see what's going on. The Greeks aren't really taking care of business. Rome is kind of tired of stuff. And not even Rome. The Greeks are still in power. Greece is not the world power, or at least of that area of the world power anymore, but the Greeks are still in power. Rome has nothing to do with anything, even as of yet, as close as we are to the turn of the millennia, I guess. Um, no, not Jason. Jason was a Greek person that was something else. He was an actual Greek. But anyways, I can't remember. Is with Judah. It might have been Judah. I don't know. Anyways, but his son, Matthew's son, takes over. His third son takes over, and they keep winning. And then eventually the Greeks are trying to take over, but there's war going on. But they actually are remaining a free state. Then eventually stuff will take over. You fast forward now, right? So now we're from 100 years or so before, or 170 or so BC. Let's fast forward to about 67 BC, 67 BC or so. Um, where now Herod is really young, but he's coming on the scene, and his father is trying to get power. His father's name is An, Antipas or Antipa, something like that. And Herod's father is having some issues. Herod's father is well, Herod's father basically is Greek. He's like Timotheus. Herod's father is Greek, and Herod's mother is at least part Israel, right? So Herod's father is Greek. Herod's mother is at least part Israel, if not whole Israel. Um, so now Herod's father, and how you doing, Minister Jenny? Um, so Herod's father is basically not really in power yet, but he's trying his best to get power, as many people of their day would have. And he's of a certain ruling class, but he's not necessarily elite. Out of this, Herod's father takes advantage where there's two brothers whose mother has power. She dies, and now you have a fight in between the two. You got a fight between the two brothers. Long story short, the two brothers, one of them is going to end up winning, and Herod's father is going to basically be like power behind the throne, realizing that this guy is very susceptible to, um, he's very susceptible to any kind of word usage or suggestion. So he's kind of controlling one of them, and then basically one of them ends up losing power, and they give Herod's father some of the power and somebody else some of the power. Um, the Israelites still aren't taking this easy, right? So the Israelites still not taking this easy. The Israelites are like, okay, we're going to go ahead and we're going to do, we're going to keep fighting this up. We don't like the fact that you're there. They don't like Herod's father, this and that, whatever. But Antipas, at least he's doing certain things that he's keeping the peace. He's very slick. He's a great politician. How you doing, Sister Beverly? Now all of a sudden, there's somebody that's going around. You have a triumphant or a triumvirate or a triumphant. I think it's triumvirate, which is three people that come together who are trying to make sure that all three of them at some point would love to be over all of Rome. Um, but for right now, since everybody's trying to be over Rome, they have the most money, they have the most prestige. You have, I don't know if it's Cassius. Cassius might be in the second triumvirate, but you have three of them, one of which is Julius Caesar, actually. So believe it or not, Julius Caesar is connected to some of this stuff as well. And people don't know that Herod's father, once again, is like in the same family as like Nero, Caligula, stuff like that. So even though Nero and Caligula are not going to have power until after zero AC, or excuse me, after zero. So they're going to be on the AC side of the, Caesar, all these people that you read about are attached. Octavian, which is Octavius Caesar, or, Augustus Caesar. The names that you hear, Vespasian, if you know who that is, Nero and Caligula, like I just talked about. All these people you're going to see, these are people that are going to be people who are attached to a lot of stuff that's dealing with Israel, right? And we don't even think about that because, once again, we've been told we don't have any connection. Right, even though we've just shown the Maccabees and we've talked about Herod. How you doing, Sister Judith? So Herod is growing up, and what happens is eventually Herod's father has worked things out, and Herod's father actually ended up getting on the winning side. Um, I don't know if it's actually Mark Antony, who at this point does not have a lot of power. Is not with Cleopatra, but is still who is working under Julius Caesar, right, and is faithful to Caesar. So Mark Antony at this point has came in and has basically helped to make sure that Julius Caesar's uh, father Antipa was allowed to go ahead and get power, right? Antipa basically, and then they cape up for Mark Antony, and by doing so, they really cape up for Julius Caesar. So now they're under Julius Caesar, and so now Antipa is given the opportunity to have a certain title, and his sons are actually allowed to be in different positions. One son, um, which is the Herod brother, or sorry, which is the brother of Herod. Herod's brother is allowed to be over Jerusalem in a certain capacity, and meanwhile, Herod is allowed to be over, might be Galilee. I feel like I'm in the wrong city. How you doing, Sister Monica? But they split up, but they're allowed to have different parts, and people are like, kind of, let's see what they do. Herod immediately, right? Or actually, I'm sorry. So now another war breaks out, right? And then over time, basically now, as Antipa's getting up in age, another war breaks out. Remember, Julius Caesar ends up taking over the triumvirate. He wins. And then all of a sudden they take his life. So when they take his life, now there's a new group of people that are fighting. There's Octavius, who is now the who has the money for that, just is Julius Caesar's, and Julius Caesar wrote in his will that he would take over whatever Caesar had. You have Mark Antony, who's upset because he was like, yo, whatever Caesar had, I should have had, because I'm the one that was sticking my neck out for him and all this. And then you have another one, which might be Crassus, or might be somebody, I can't remember who the third one is. And then you have a third one, and they form another triumvirate. And they have prescriptions, and they say this person will lose their life, and I'll give you this, and I'll give you that. This is all affecting Israel, because now Israel has somebody come down, and they got to figure out whose side they're going to be on. So they're not on Octavian's side. Octavian's not even dealing with Israel. Mark Antony is supposed to be who helped them to get freedom, but the third person of the triumvirate actually is against. You see all this stuff, the Roman stuff. This they live in drama all day, every day, right? Always about war, right? This is the whole thing and how it's affecting Israel, right? So now, here we go, where what happens next? Now this third party, you had Octavian, you had Mark Antony, and then, please forgive me, I'm forgetting the third name right now. That third name is actually now taking over Israel. Israel doesn't want it, but they have to deal with whatever it is. Israel ends up losing, or the person who's fighting and is over Israel ends up losing to Mark Antony. Mark Antony comes over, and basically they just tell Mark Antony, Herod goes to Mark Antony, he says, hey, look, man, I know we were friends. I know you helped me out. No, it's not Nero. Nero is not even on the throne or even in power yet. Matter of fact, Nero was probably kicked out. He's probably considered to be a bastard at this point and has forfeited a lot of stuff, and is just being kept alive somewhere with his mother. So Nero's not in the picture yet. He's coming, but he's not in the picture yet. He's not coming in this story, but he's coming around. But anyways, so you have whoever this third person is, they lost to Mark Antony in them. Mark Antony ends up coming to be like, okay, well, you was up against me, I'm gonna take y'all out. Herod says, no, man, you our boy and everything, but come on, the other guy, he would have destroyed Israel if we didn't go with him, so we had to do what we had to do. And Mark Antony, because a lot of cats back then, you couldn't trust him anyways, Mark Antony just goes, all right, I guess, and gives him the role of governor of Israel, which is, by the way, that's the same role that later on Pontius Pilate's going to have. Pontius Pilate, he's going to have that same role. So at this moment, Herod starts off as the governor, not the king yet, but the governor. They still got a puppet king. Puppet king's going to end up losing his life a little bit anyways, right? But you have Mark Antony. This is all stuff you can look up because they tell us these people aren't real. So go read it for yourself, go study, research it, tell me if I'm lying, right? So now you have Mark Antony, who is who they're answering to. Mark Antony is fighting against, has beat the one person, him and Octavian, or Julius Caesar's child. Well, some people say it was his adopted child. Maybe it was possibly his actual physical child. You had those two that are still fighting, right? Now, after all this, how you doing, Sister Nadine? Now, after all this, and the fight that's going on, eventually, who's going to pass away? You're going to have Julius Caesar's son is going to pass away. And now, Herod and his father has passed away now. Antipa has passed away at this moment, or by this time. So now Herod, this is still all before Christ, by the way, before Christ. And when I say way before, this is still like 47 BC-ish. We still haven't even gotten to zero yet, or close to it. And here we are, where it's like, okay, now I got to go. Now he's like, I got to go visit Octavian. I got to go visit Julius Caesar's son. Now remember, he was under one of the three. That one lost. Then he had to go to Mark Antony, who was supposed to be his boy, and be like, yo, man, I know we were boys, but, and then Mark Antony like, man, you wilding, but all right, bro, like, I'll make you the governor. Then he goes before the one that now has won, Julius Caesar's son, who you don't know as Augustus Caesar, right? And he got to go to him now, the person that basically has won and now is going to be in charge of Rome and going to be your first Caesar, although he will never call himself Caesar. But technically your first Caesar, although Julius Caesar is your first Caesar, but whatever. It's really weird stuff that be going on with what they try to tell you in history, right? But anyway, so now he has to go to him, and somehow, some way, he basically says, "Look," he just tells him the truth. He was trying to figure out on the way, like, what do I tell him? How should I do this? How should I deal with this? He just goes, I'm gonna tell him the truth. He goes up to him and says, "Look, I was rocking with the first one. First one lost, right? When they lost, I told the second one, like, yo, what choice do I have? I can't just lose my life because I won't support the one that was your enemy. Now that you defeated that one, hey, it is what it is. If you decide to take my life, you take my life. But if you keep me alive, the same way I was loyal to them, it's the same way I'll be loyal to you. How you doing, Big Brother Thomas?" And somehow, some way this works, although this is the very definition of disloyal. But once again, that's how this stuff works, right? Happen to be in the right family, though. And by the way, Romans respect cats to be finding a way to live. So this is when he becomes your false king. Now, once again, he is not considered to be Israel, not because he has no Israel blood. Remember, his mother is Israel. But he's not considered to be Israel because not only is his father Israel, but also, remember, he's Hellenistic. Remember this term I just talked about, Hellenistic Jews? When we talk about the people that were known as New Maccabees in 167 BC, who under Matthew came against what the Greeks were trying to force them to do and worship Zeus. And then they ended up going to the mountains and they declared war. And they started using guerrilla warfare. Well, here you have the same type of stuff going on here, where you have a Hellenistic Hebrew or Hellenistic Jew, somebody who's not full Israel or definitely doesn't keep the commands, right? And now and by the way, this Herod is doing all types of crazy stuff. Before we even get to the fact that he tried to take the lives of everybody's firstborn because he was afraid of the Christ and what he might do, let us not forget that this Herod also, if you remember, if you remember, if you studied, this Herod also way before that has gotten in trouble because there were people that were out of pocket and just said, "Hey, we don't agree with what you're doing," and they said you should keep the commandments. And his response was to go ahead and just murder them, and then he actually had to be brought into court and almost lost his life, but he was let off. He was basically guilty, but somehow, some way, I guess you greased the right palms or whatever, he was allowed to get out of it. So this is somebody who kept showing over and over again. Then once he becomes king, he divorces his wife and marries somebody who was part of an older family of royal blood. So does that mean she was of Judah? Does that mean she was part Judah? Does that mean that she was actually of Greek? There's kind of discussions on that. Whatever, she had an Israelite name, right? She had Mariam, or what we call Miriam or Mary. So she had an Israelite name. More than likely, she's at least Israelite blood, and it doesn't seem like the people of Israel had a problem with this person. So what you do is when you conquer somebody else, what do? You take their woman, right, and you marry into them, and you have them have your child, right? That's how that works. So here it is. How you doing, Brother Ricky? So here it is that they have him come in, and they have him. He basically takes he divorces his wife. I think he actually took her life, and then he marries this new woman. Right. So this is Herod. This is all stuff you can read up on your own. So by the time we get to Christ, right, when we're talking about around zero, or some people argue Christ was more likely probably born somewhere around 4 to 6 AC, somewhere between there. That seems to be the new argument. But most people determine he was born in zero. We don't 100% know what year he was born. We know he was born around that time, probably on the AC side, a couple of years at least. But by the time you get to Christ, Herod has actually committed many murders. Now, what he's done to make it to where people are appeased and people just agree with it, Herod has built some of the greatest wonders you've ever seen in the world. He's built great places and harbors for ships. He's made a lot of buildings. Matter of fact, the Wailing Wall is something that Herod built, supposedly. Now, we know not a stone was left upon a stone, so more than likely, but supposedly what they're telling you is this is the leftover part of the wall that Herod built. Some people try to say it's a wall of the temple, which is really nonsense. But they're trying to say it's a wall that Herod built. If you believe the Bible, not a stone was left upon a stone, though. So, but it is what it is. That's what they'll tell you, that wall is part of what Herod built, which, by the way, it doesn't mean that's what Israel built. Remember? Because Herod is trying his best to be a Hellenistic Jew, and then even is trying to appease the Greek deities, and while trying to say that he's also doing things for Israel. But then again, you have Hellenistic Jews, remember. So when you're talking about the Pharisees, Sadducees, scribes, a lot of them are not Israel anyways. Not just only saying they're not full blood, but they don't keep commandments, they don't keep laws anymore. And if they do, and as much stuff as they allow Herod to get away with, Herod will build them a temple, even though they already had a temple. People don't know that. It was like a, it was kind of like a do our best to put it together temple. It wasn't what the old temple used to look like, but we had a temple. Herod said, no, I'll just build one. And to this day, it's not called the temple of the Most High. It's called Herod's temple, right? So Herod's like, as long as I pay y'all off, as long as you do this, it's Balaam doctrine, right? As if I give you gold, hey, just tell the people that I'm in charge, make it work, right? And some people even say, historically speaking, when you read his story, not just what the Bible says, but when you read his story, you'll actually see that some people even go as far as to tell you that Herod actually had gone crazy. He had some disease at the end, not leprosy, but he had problems with his body. He had gangrene or something like that. At least like a slow gangrene that was forming, something like that. And so he actually was starting to lose his mind. He was like, rotting from the inside out almost, including in his brain. So he was already making a lot of different things and was causing a lot of death and a lot of frustration, a lot of things all over Israel. So even people who say they don't believe in the Bible say, hey, it's not that far fetched for them to believe that he probably would have done what the Bible says to all those children. Right, right. By the way, he had done it to plenty of people before. He had taken plenty of lives. He had been on trial for it multiple times. He had many different controversies. So it's not that hard to believe, right? So if you are somebody who's like I am, to where for a long time in doing what you're doing, you have to explain things to people, and people keep trying to tell you not one single person in the Bible is real, or you can't find one grave, or you can't find any proof or evidence of this person. You can't find their name engraved. Well, we're going to do more stuff like this. Even if we don't necessarily give a bunch of verses, we want to at least even show in his story, not just in the story or our story, but even in his story, that they agree that a lot of these people we're talking about, that they exist. And we can put them in the same time frame that the Bible does. And when we're giving you these dates and saying Christ was born around here, this is when this happened, this is when this happened, etc., you'll be able to know now for yourself. Like, no, you can't tell me. At least there's one. Like, we're gonna go for a few more, obviously, or quite a few more this year. But I'm gonna try to do that more regularly in the evenings. That being said, I've gone over the time I even wanted to go. We got to get ready to get on the road and do these last, hopefully no more than 45 minutes or so if traffic is working with us tonight. Thank you all for being on. We appreciate you so much. I will see you guys in the rising. For those of you who observe the Sabbath on Saturdays, Shabbat Shalom to you. Thank you for being on. We appreciate you. You guys have a great night. Hopefully this helped you to do some rabbit hole, that goes down some rabbit hole, do some digging. Please study this. Don't just assume that I said it, or if you're somebody who's going to trust, hey, I promise you that I'm not going to steer you wrong. However, look, try the spirit by the spirit. Just some of y'all call every man a liar. Do what you got to do. I don't mind you making sure that you look it up for yourself. You should, right? But I promise you, if you look up some of this stuff, you'll see very quickly that it is agreed that Herod is a real person, that he lived. He lived at the same time. He lived in Israel. He's even described by Flavius Josephus. I always tell you that's an Israelite who's a historian, who was a general for us, right? Who saw Christ himself and explains to you what Christ himself looks like, talks about our history, talks about how the temple was built with Solomon, all those things. He's literally where we get our records for a whole bunch of these Roman Caesars. So if he's great enough to tell us about Roman Caesars, and he writes stuff about Israel, why not make sure that we say, hey, we'll give him the same respect for us as well. He's a Hebrew of the Hebrews, just like we should. We give our honor and praise to the Most High. We give our honor and praise to him for my wife, the Honorable Maya, who lives a life that's able to be honored. Please check her out on TikTok, YouTube, her website, and Pinterest at Bloom and Flourish, not A-N-D, the letter N. Bloom and Flourish. She is a healer, herbalist, chemist, and biologist by degree. Moderators, ministerial staff, SOC, Lottie, Di, and everybody. I bow down to thee. Have a great night. Pray for us, and prayerfully I'll see you guys 8 a.m. Eastern New York time tomorrow. My wife and I will see you for Shabbat Shalom service tomorrow. The children will be led by Elder Meyer. Actually going to be kind of sort of a watch party for the children for the next few weeks. So we're excited about that. So if you got babies and you want to be part of the watch party, stuff like that, all you got to do, if you're on TikTok, look in the link tree. If you're on YouTube, look in the link tree or just text us, email us, whatever the case might be. If you got babies, grandbabies, nieces, nephews, whatever the case might be, we'd love to have them come on with us, but and be part of our lessons and stuff. But we're gonna watch. I think it's the Prince of Egypt, and talk through some of the stuff for the next 3 Saturdays. So if you'd like to join us, if you got babies, that's for the babies, right? Parents, we'd like y'all to be there as well. But if you're going to join us, we'd love to have you join us. Thank you so much. And we'll talk to you tomorrow. Brothers, don't forget, tomorrow is our first men's meeting of the year. So we hope to see you on Zoom. All right. As always, it's been Pastor Kofi, Pastor Servant to Christ, where we are always changing lives one mind at a time, but being the voice of the voiceless and speaking the unspoken. And until I have the great privilege, opportunity, and responsibility of being in front of you all again, please remember, as always, that you are loved, you are necessary, you are majestic, you are fearfully and wonderfully made, and you, which is all of us working together, will be the reason why people who are in this system no longer have to be of it. Shabbat Shalom, family. Peace.